get down to business. Thanks for coming out tonight.
I wrote me a manual, a step-by-step booklet for you to get.
Oh, I make money move.
You can't see me, my time is now.
What up, guys? Welcome back to the Fitness Times Business Podcast, the show created to provide you with the practical and strategic advice to help you level up in fitness, business, career, your relationships, and your life. My name is Joseph Mencel. I am your host, and I'm joined in this episode by someone who's quickly becoming co-host. Leah Mencel back in the episode. What's happening?
What's going on?
You jumped at the opportunity to be in this episode.
Yeah.
Especially when I told you what the topic of the episode was going to be.
That's right.
You guys already know what the topic is because it comes up as the title when you download. This episode is called Real Self-Love. And there's a couple of things that I want to achieve in this episode for the listeners and for the viewers. Obviously, practical and strategic advice is one, but I really want to firstly identify the self-love movement. And, you know, for the listeners and the viewers who are perhaps not particularly familiar with it, let's just scope it out real quick. Then I want to talk about how the self-love movement can very quickly become used as a cop-out,
Right.
and can very quickly become abused, and some examples of how we've seen the self-love movement be abused, especially recently. It seems like whenever we have like a lockdown, people kind of revert to quote unquote self-love,
Right, yeah.
but not really self-love. Then I want to talk about some of my personal experiences with when I personally have fallen to the dark side of the self-love movement. That's what we're going to call it. We're going to call it the dark side, and kind of abused it and use it as cop-outs in different areas of my life. And then I want to talk about what real self-love is.
Sure.
You know, let's put the self-love movement aside and let's talk about our personal experiences and what we believe real self-love is, and then give the practical and strategic advice, how the listeners, how the viewers, how you guys can take real self-love and apply it to all areas of your life.
Let's go.
What is the self-love movement?
I think it's what we're seeing now on social media and in the media of people. I think the interpretation has been a bit confused because it's people almost taking it as being like a little bit selfish, a little bit narcissistic in a way.
You're on straight to the dark side.
Well,
Shit
no,
the bed.
I'm just sort of I'm
You're
saying
already.
what I kind of see it as already, like what I'm seeing. Hashtag self-love, hashtag self-care.
Well, this is where it gets abused, right?
Right.
I did a little bit of research, did a little bit of Googling, because I wanted to just pull some really, like, you know, quotable references to the self-love movement. And this is what I came up with. Self-love is the act of putting your own happiness, well-being, and mental health first. I agree with that. I think that's at the heart of the self-love movement. Self-love means taking care of your own needs and not sacrificing your well-being to please others.
Okay, yeah.
Yep.
Good.
Self-love means not settling for less than you deserve.
Good.
And I think those are probably like the top three that I found. I found a bunch of other like airy-fairy fluffy bullshit, but I think that those are kind of like the top three things that contribute to self-love and the self-love movement. And at face value, I tend to agree with them.
Yeah.
I tend to agree with the act of putting your own happiness, well-being, and mental health first is a common theme that we discuss in this podcast, right? We're always talking about, we even did an episode called The Pursuit of Happiness, right? I've done a bunch of episodes on mental health and practical and strategic advice to prioritize your mental health. So I tend to agree with that. Taking care of your own needs and not sacrificing your well-being to please others, absolutely, that's external validation.
Yep.
In one sentence, right? So I tend to agree with that as well. And then not settling for less than you deserve. I mean, not settling is something we've discussed in many different forms through many different examples in this podcast. So I tend to agree with that. The deserve thing I'll get to in the second, because I think that starts to err on the dark side of the self-love movement. But I think as a general concept, those are the key points of the self-love movement. And I think as a general concept, on face value, I tend to agree with it.
Sure. The problem with a lot of these things is the interpretation and the application of it.
Application.
And that's where this is going to fall down and where it is falling down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why I wanted to do this episode now, what inspired me to do this episode now, because I was those of you who follow me on Instagram would know I was jostling between two topics for this episode, and actually put it out to a vote on my IG story, and this was the topic that ended up winning. And the reason why this was one of the topics that I wanted to do right now is because it's generally quite timely, and I find that we've just come out in South Australia where we're based. We've just come out of a week-long lockdown. So we went to lockdown 7 days. We come out of lockdown, and it's something that I generally see. I've seen over the last 18 months with the pandemic, right, is when it's like stay at home, lockdown, I see a lot of my social media feed turn to the dark side of the self-love movement. And that's why I wanted to talk about this now, because I think it's quite timely. Victoria, the state of Victoria, has come out of lockdown. New South Wales is still in lockdown, and I mean the pandemic it's going to be part of our lives for years now, man. So it's going to kind of come and go, ebb and flow as it kind of pleases. And so I guess this is a little bit of an awareness piece for you guys listening and watching, that when you do go into your next lockdown, as you most likely will, is to avoid these mistakes that we're about to discuss. So hit me, because I can see you're like bubbling at the surface.
Look, I'm just going to say it straight up that hiding behind self-love is not an excuse for letting yourself or your fitness goals, for instance, fall over. Straight up. So I see that a lot. I see a lot of people, especially in this industry, actually. I see it in a certain age group and stuff as well, but a lot in this industry and a lot sort of post-competition stuff. And I see it. I see people using self-love as a disguise for not reverse dieting, not keeping up with training. They put on 5-10 kilos post-show and they hashtag self-love. I'm just love my body, love myself. And I'm all for loving the skin you're in, but I'm not for letting your health and fitness, and mainly your health. Like, I can't get over the fact that as a society we're excusing obesity as self-love. Like, it's bullshit. I really can't get down with it at all.
Well, not even obesity in the fitness realm, right?
I jumped from fitness then to just general society, but yeah.
Yeah, but not even obesity, right? You can just go to like being overweight.
Yeah.
Right? Obesity isn't an extreme, right? It takes a lot to get to that point. But even just like, carrying too much body fat, right? Like excessive amount, just being fat.
Yeah.
And excusing that as self-love.
Yeah.
Is
hashtag hashtag thick.
Yeah, with how many C's
with
though?
5 C's.
Thick with 5 Z's.
Yeah, it's not. It is, and it's not healthy. That's the problem I have with it. Like, yes, love the skin you're in, and be confident in your body. But if you're just not pursuing any sort of way to change that, and because you're calling it self-love, like, it's detrimental to your health. That's my real my real problem with it is the fact that we're just ignoring the fact that it is just plain unhealthy to carry that much body fat, and we're hashtagging it as self-love.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just don't understand that at all.
Where I see it, I tend to see it on social media as well, in the fitness space as well, similar to yourself. But where I also see it is in the entrepreneurial community.
Okay.
Right? And not so much with the physical side of things, but with the mental side of things. Right? As it's like, a photo of someone meditating or reading or, these sorts of different techniques that are used for prioritizing mental health on one side, and on the other side, drinking, smoking,
Right.
all that sort of stuff, you know, hashtag self-love, hashtag self-care. And these are entrepreneurs who I know personally through business. And I'm like, well, but I know what's actually happening behind the scenes,
Yeah.
right? You're saying this self-love bullshit. Motherfucker, you haven't done anything.
Yeah.
Like you're not actually this big entrepreneur that you claim to be. You're not running this business that you claim to be running. You're just being fucking lazy.
Yeah.
And you're using the self-love movement as a cop-out for your laziness.
Yeah.
That's where I see it a lot.
Yeah.
And especially with people who I know who behind the scenes are not putting in work, the ones who you know, are not pushing themselves outside of the comfort zone, the ones who are the things that they do when nobody else is watching, or they think nobody else is watching, do not meet any sort of standard. And then they're out there promoting, well, not promoting, but hiding behind self-love for their lack of ability to execute fucking anything.
Yeah.
And then they get, you know, all the comments and hooray, you know,
Yeah.
high five and fucking you deserve this,
Yeah.
you know, and all that shit that comes along with it. I started thinking about these different things, and I think that this is where, you know, really we can add a lot of practical advice to you guys, to the listeners and the viewers. And I actually put a list. I put a list of what I got here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I got 7 points here of what I've seen in both fitness and business, and also career. And we haven't even touched on relationships yet, but I want to go. I want to go there too, right?
Definitely.
But these are 7 things that I've kind of identified across those 4 areas that I consider not to be self-love.
Yeah.
Right. So this is what I consider self-love is not staying within your comfort zone and not pushing yourself too hard. Right. Self-love is not staying within your comfort zone. Self-love is not shying away from challenges. Self-love is not settling. And I want to dive into that because I think that can be misinterpreted, right? Self-love is not letting yourself off the hook and hiding behind mental health or hiding behind physical health or whatever the fuck. Self-love is not avoiding criticism because it hurts your feelings.
Yeah. We've done a whole podcast on that.
We did.
Decoding
Decoding criticism. Self-love is not never committing to anything because you might fail and always keeping a plan B up your sleeve just in case you do.
Yeah.
And then finally, self-love is not numbing negative emotions because they make you feel bad.
Make you feel uncomfortable. Yeah.
Those are 7 things that I've identified as that you really cannot use the self-love movement and hide behind it because you're afraid of those 7 things in a lot of different areas.
Something that I see a lot as well, and it's happened to me personally, and I see it happen to friends of friends and stuff, is people also using this self-love movement to actually just to be a shit friend.
Yep.
To put it bluntly, like people cancelling on friends because they don't feel, you know, up to it really or whatever. And then it becomes I've just got to take a night in for self-love. Like just the selfishness of it is really becoming a bit of a problem, I think. And just hiding behind the self-love thing when really you're just being selfish.
Well, I find that, you know, generally it tends to, I think if you fall into the trap of hiding behind self-love for any one of those 7 things that I just highlighted, it does a few things, right? The first thing is it actually encourages fear, right? It actually puts you in a state where in the face of fear, you forget everything and run, which is exactly the example that you just gave with you know, cancelling on dates or, you know, whatever the situation may be. You actually don't have the ability to confront fear. And because of that, it actually also encourages cowardice as opposed to courage. It encourages, you know, kind of getting back into your shell and never doing anything that makes you uncomfortable and never doing anything that hurts your feelings and never doing anything that puts you out there in a vulnerable position and puts yourself on the line because you're afraid of the consequences. And it's a little bit worrying because what that can then lead to is victim mindset. is really putting yourself in a position where the fear starts to build to a level and the cowardice starts to build to a level where you feel like you are the victim of things that happen to you rather than things happening for you, and your complete perspective on all areas of your life can change, right? And it leads to this victim mindset, which ultimately erodes people's confidence. And I think that, that's definitely the extreme, but that's the direction you start heading in when you're using this hashtag self-love and hashtag self-care to get out of anything that makes you uncomfortable. That's how I kind of see it playing out. What do you think?
Yeah, I have to agree with you. Yeah, it's just this dangerous thing that's happening at the moment. Yeah.
Do you have any examples in your life experience where, because I don't want to stand on my soapbox here and say, you know what, I just see this from a distance. I've never personally experienced it because I'm some sort of fucking higher being or some shit, right? I feel like at some stage we've all been through periods in our life where we have, for whatever reason, we've hidden behind the self-love movement or the self-care movement, or just hidden behind something because we were in a position where we hadn't built the confidence or the courage or the ability to face something that made us uncomfortable. So we found something to kind of just go and hide behind.
Oh.
What do you got there?
Oh, that's a tough one. It's a tough one. You know what? I don't actually have anything that's coming to mind. Yeah, no. Do you?
Of course I do.
Of course you do. That's why you asked me. No, you go.
I think about, all sides of this, right?
Yeah.
Especially when I start, going down the track of, feeling like I've only ever experienced one side of things. I always kind of pull myself back and I go, no, hold on a second, think a little bit deeper. The reason why you're able to speak about the dangers of abusing self-love, or the reason why you're able to speak about the dangers of hiding behind something to pull a curtain over your own vulnerability, is because you've been there yourself. And one of the things that I've seen it manifest in me is, I mentioned at the start of this podcast, one of the definitions of self-love was not settling for less than you deserve, right? And I've already said that self-love is actually not settling for anything, right? Settling needs to be completely off the table. As soon as you settle for anything, that's not self-love. That's, you got to a point where you decided that you weren't going to push through and you've decided to settle. And it might be settling for a particular job, settling for a particular stage in your career, settling for a particular friend, settling for a particular partner, life partner, and you just got to a point where you just fucking gave up. Like, let's just call it for what it is. So settling is not part of self-love at all. It can't be. It can't possibly be. It's a complete cop-out. But one of the things that I've found is when I start to err on the side of hiding behind something, I start to fall into this mindset of what I deserve rather than what I earn. And this is something I'm excited to talk to you about this. I'm excited to talk to you guys, the listeners and the viewers, about this, because this is something that has been part of my recurring thoughts for quite some time now. And I've never had a platform or a topic to be able to discuss this. So I'm excited to share this with you guys because I think that this is a particular train of thought that has been built up over my life experience that is quite unique. And I think that it will provide a perspective that, hopefully you guys haven't heard anywhere before. So what happens to me is I fall into this mindset of I deserve this in the positive realm. So like, I've done this, therefore I deserve this positively.
Okay.
Or on the other end of the spectrum, I've done this, therefore I don't deserve the bad shit that's happening.
Okay.
So I fall into this position of I either deserve good shit because I've done shit that makes me deserve it, or I don't deserve to be treated that way, or I don't deserve for that to happen to me, or whatever the fuck the situation is, because I did all of this good shit. And that's when I know, as soon as I start using that sort of internal dialogue, I know that I've fallen into that victim mindset, right? I know that I've fallen into hiding behind something, whether it's self-love, whether it's, whatever the fuck, you pick anything. And I'm hiding behind something because I'm actually afraid of the other side of that. And there's 3 examples in my life. There's multiple, but I'm gonna pick 3 to talk to you guys about. The first one was in my fitness journey, and I'm going to go back to my competing in men's physique. I'm going to go back to 2016, where I'd been competing in the IFBB for, I think that was 4 years, every year after another. And I'd been competing in shows for 12 years before that, right? I'd done almost 20 shows. And I got to the point where I was like, you know what? I deserve to turn pro. I deserve, like I've paid my dues, right? I deserve this. This is, I've got this owed to me. I've got this coming to me because I've, done the shows, I've invested the time, I've done so many preps, so on and so forth, and I deserve that, this is my time. I deserve to turn pro. And I think that being in that mindset and that victim mindset and having that internal dialogue of I deserve this led to a couple of things in me. It led to me on multiple occasions during that prep not pushing myself too hard, just staying with, crossing the T's, dotting the I's, but not doing anything that was like outside of my comfort zone. It led to me shying away from challenges during that prep. It led to me letting myself off the hook. If I didn't train with the intensity I needed to, you know what? It's all good, man. If I missed a cardio session, it's all good, man. If I cheat, well, I didn't cheat I never cheat on my diet, but if I had cheated on my diet, that would have been, I would have been letting myself off the hook. It led to me avoiding input from others and feedback from others and ultimately criticism from others because it was going to hurt my feelings. And ultimately what it led to was me not turning pro. I didn't even place at the national show that year. And that's an example in my fitness where, being in that mindset of I deserve this just like smacked me right in the face.
Yeah. Take that.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Big time. Another example that I have is business, and there's so many examples in business, and I picked a couple of kind of broad areas, retail stores and the wholesale side of Massive Joe's. For those of you who don't know, there is quite a large wholesale side to this business where, we supply gyms, we supply other supplement stores. We do wholesale business as opposed to retail business that most of you will be familiar with through retail stores and the massivejoes.com website as well. And whenever I fall into the mindset of, the retail stores are going to do well and they're going to perform because I deserve them to, or the wholesale side of the business is going to perform because I deserve it to, right? And I can justify deserving it however the fuck I want, because I've been doing this for 15 years, because I've worked with this person and this brand and that brand, or because I produced this podcast that is completely free and puts so much valuable information into the universe, whatever the fuck, however I decide to justify it, it's I deserve this to work because I've done this, and therefore it's owed to me. And whenever I've fallen into that mindset, it's led to similar things to my fitness journey, shying away from challenges, letting myself off the hook, letting my standards slide, avoiding feedback and criticism and other people's valuable, constructive criticism of what's going on because it hurts my feelings and I can't possibly be wrong because I don't deserve to be wrong, right? It leads to never fully committing to a part of the business because I'm afraid of what's going to happen if it fails. So always leaving that plan B in my back pocket, right? Because I deserve for it to work. So I don't need to commit to it fully. And every time I've done that, guess what's happened? Been smacked in the face. The universe has humbled the shit out of me and said, you know what, motherfucker, you don't deserve anything. You got to get to work.
I'm guilty of some of the sort of hiding behind self-love stuff. I was just thinking about a few things while you were talking, and mine's on like a real basic level that I think people will be able to relate to if they're listening to this podcast. So like I'll, set my alarm, say to get up to train before work.
Yep.
And, it's cold at the moment and
Yep.
it's raining and bed's warm, and I'll opt to not get up and train because self-love. I'm going to stay in bed. That's a bit of self-love. I'll get, treat myself to a sleep in, that kind of thing. Or
feeling a little bit tired at the moment.
Self-love. Self-care.
I'm stressed because, work's stressing me out.
Yeah.
Or,
same thing. Like I'll get home from work at night, and instead of heading to the supermarket to get, or everything I need to cook up a nice homemade meal, I'll get Uber Eats because hashtag self-love.
Yep.
Self-care. I'm going to treat myself to some Uber Eats tonight, when really, I don't have a genuine reason for, not actually going back out to the house to go to the shops to, cook up a meal. It's just it's just like almost lazy. I'm kind of, I'll sit here and admit it. I kind of hide behind self-care, self-love when I just can't be bothered. And it's not, it's not great at all. I've seen people do it as well with spending. I see that a lot. Now, I'm not too guilty of it. I try and, manage my finances.
It's retail therapy, man. It's real.
That's what, yeah. But it's also a bit, sometimes quite irresponsible and quite sort of immature in the way people do it. Like they'll, retail therapy, go on a shopping spree, buy a new handbag, but spend that entire paycheck on it and then not be able to make rent the next week.
Or even worse, not spend a paycheck on it and use buy now, pay later services stacked on top of each other, or credit cards or whatever the fuck it is, and spend money that they don't have.
Yeah. And I get like the retail therapy is a real thing, but the part that, again, where I think it's falling down is those people will post that on social media on a story, and then like hashtag self-love, self-care with like a, brand new handbag. And it's just, I feel like that external validation that they're seeking from this self-love thing is just this dangerous cycle that, I'm a bit wary of at the moment.
Yeah, 100%. And I bet that those examples, if you can dig into your own thought process that you gave, right, where you hit the snooze button, you sleep in, you get home after a big day at work and you Uber Eats instead of doing what you need to do, right, for your physical health, for your mental health, is actually go and cook a good meal. Yeah. I bet that your inner dialogue is, I deserve to sleep in. I deserve to Uber Eats. Because I had a big day at work. Right? It always does. Yeah. And this is why I'm so excited to share this with you guys for the first time, because I think that if you dig into similar situations that you can think of in your life where you've fallen into this victim mindset, the inner dialogue always is, I deserve. I deserve. Or in the negative, I don't deserve. My just to flesh that out as well, I want to use relationships in my personal experience for that negative, I don't deserve this, right? Because that's happened multiple times. It's happened with partners, right? Ex-partners of mine. Yep. It's happened with friends. It's happened with employees within the Massive Joe's business, where, objectively, people haven't done the right thing. They've betrayed trust. They've let me down. They said they were going to do something and they didn't follow through with it. Those sort of objective things where you're just like, yeah, that was a dog act. And the mindset is, I don't deserve to be treated like this. And immediately I know, as soon as my inner dialogue turns to that, I'm in victim mindset. I'm in hiding behind something, and I need to dig deep and find out why I'm hiding behind it, and then change that inner dialogue from I deserve to the opposite of I deserve, which I think I've earned.
Okay.
That's where I go. I go two ends of the spectrum. On this end is I deserve or I don't deserve. On this end, I've earned or I haven't earned. That's where my mind goes. That's how I use to flip out of victim mindset into confident mindset.
That's Team J apparel.
Well,
Right there, isn't it?
I'm
That's
wearing a
You are
t-shirt
actually-
at the moment.
You're wearing the
I'm wearing
earn
the long
everything.
sleeve.
Yeah, you're wearing the earn everything long sleeve.
It doesn't have the print on the front.
No,
It's got
it's
the
on the
big
back.
print on the back that says earn everything. But just back to those relationships, right? So as soon as I fall into that, I don't deserve this. It's usually I don't deserve to be treated like this, right? Because I've done this for this person, or, once again, it doesn't matter what the justification is. I'm hiding behind something, and I fall to I don't deserve to be treated like this. And the big thing that I think it kind of hiding behind self-love, self-care, hiding behind I don't deserve is a way of me numbing the negative emotions that come along with somebody letting me down, which is not self-love. Numbing negative emotions is not self-love.
Yeah, we said that at the start.
So what is self-love? What's real self-love?
Real self-love for me starts very much in my own inner dialogue. So I think, let's face it, like the person that you talk to and listen to the most is yourself. So I think that you've really got to check yourself and make sure that you are saying the right things to yourself. I think that is like at the heart of self-love, is just checking yourself, self-talk, and making sure that you are saying the right things to yourself.
And what are the right things to say to yourself?
Well, they're not what you just said. They're not, I deserve this. I don't deserve this. I think for me, the biggest thing is not so much in making sure that I'm saying the right things exactly, but it's a lot in the delivery of how I'm talking to myself as well. I think just being gentle with the way that you are, telling yourself things is really important in self-love. Just trying to think how I can elaborate on that for you.
Examples.
You shoot to something that you've got, and then I'll try and articulate that a bit better.
I'm going to give you guys the 7 antidotes to what is not self-love. And I'm going to call this list of 7. This is what I consider to be real self-love. Real self-love, in my opinion, is pushing yourself outside of your comfort zone. It is doing things that make you uncomfortable. It is confronting challenges head on instead of running in the other direction. When faced with discomfort, F-E-A-R, fear, what are you going to do? Are you going to fear everything and run? That's not self-love. Are you going to face everything and rise? That's real self-love. Real self-love is refusing to settle, ever. Real self-love is never settling for anything, ever. I'm so very passionate about this. I think that the word settle and deserve should be banished, gone. Real self-love is holding yourself accountable, which means calling yourself out on your own bullshit, which means when you hit the snooze button in the morning and you know you need to get up and go to the gym and get your workout in, but you want to stay in bed because it's cold and it's raining and it's dark outside, and you justify it because you're, self-loving yourself, call yourself out on that bullshit. You know, when you get home after a big day of work and you know that you got to cook dinner up to get a nice wholesome meal in, and you go on Uber Eats a pizza instead because you deserve it. Call yourself out on that bullshit. Real self-love is holding yourself accountable. Real self-love is holding yourself accountable when nobody else is watching, in particular, when there's no one else to hold you accountable but yourself. Real self-love is keeping the promises that you make to yourself, especially when the circumstances make it difficult to keep the promises. Real self-love is seeking out criticism, purposely seeking out criticism because you know that it's going to make you better. It's going to make you a better person. It's going to make you a better leader. It's going to make you a better partner. It's going to make you a better athlete. Whatever area in life you're trying to level up in, you can't do it without criticism. So instead of going, I don't want to hear criticism or feedback or, constructive feedback from people who I should be listening to because it's going to hurt my feelings, it's going to hurt my ego. That's not self-love. Real self-love is purposely going and seeking that criticism because you know it's going to help you level up. Real self-love is not having a plan B, having the confidence to burn your boats, go all in, give everything you've got to give, and making sure that failure is not an option. And finally, and this one's super important when it comes to relationships, real self-love is leaning into negative emotions. Real self-love is experiencing the full power of negative emotions because you know that allows you to also experience the full power of the positive ones. Emotions are like a pendulum, right? If you want the pendulum to go as high as it can go on this side in the positive realm of bliss and joy and happiness and fulfillment and confidence and all of those wonderful emotions that we like to experience, you got to let the pendulum go just as high on this end. You got to experience fear and vulnerability and trauma and pain and all of those negative emotions that we try and numb. If you numb these ones, you numb these ones. If you got the courage to experience these ones in their full capacity, that builds the capacity to experience these ones like you never thought possible. So real self-love is actually purposely leaning into negative emotions. Those are my 7. I think I listed 10, but fuck it.
You just
There's
kept
a bunch
going.
there. There's a bunch there.
You just kept going.
Because what this does, guys, what these 7 antidotes do is they encourage confidence and they encourage courage as opposed to fear and cowardice. They're the complete antidote. They're going to build your confidence. They're going to build your courage when you start doing these things, when you hold yourself accountable, when you call yourself out on your own bullshit, when you keep the promises you make to yourself. That builds confidence because you're like, well, fuck, if I did it once, I can do it again. And if I can do it again, I can do it again. And I can do it again after that. And if I have the courage to lean into these negative emotions once, I can build the courage to do it again. If I have the courage to face this challenge and face this obstacle and face this discomfort once and go through it, that's going to build the courage to do it again and then do it again and then do it again. So you start stacking up confidence and courage on top of each other and you transition out of this victim mindset into an empowered killer mindset, a winner's mindset. Instead of being over here all huddled up, hiding behind fucking hashtag self-love and fucking hashtag self-care and all of this bullshit. You're not hiding behind anything. You're over here owning your shit, winning at your shit.
I want to touch on the fact as well, just something I was thinking about while you were talking, with self-love being, quite selfish in the way that people are trying to achieve self-love. And I just want to make note of the fact that, once upon a time, and I think still to this day, solitary confinement is actually used to torture people. So the whole self-love thing, and I'm just going to stay in my bubble and stay in my shell, and this is, you know, me achieving self-care and self-love by, you know, cancelling those plans or, you know, not attending to these friendships or whatever, however people are sort of doing it. A lot of self-love is actually only ever going to be achieved, and self-care can only actually be achieved by including other individuals as well. Like just because it has self in it, it's not necessarily you flying solo and not giving a fuck about anyone else around you in your circle as well. Like I think a few people are misinterpreting it as like a need to be like exclusively selfish. And that's just, like I was saying at the start, a complete misinterpretation of what self-love and self-care actually is.
You know what you've just done?
What?
You've actually just hit the nail completely on the head. I couldn't figure this out until just now.
Oh, really?
You have though. You've actually decoded why when we go into lockdowns and quarantines, this fucking self-love movement pokes its ugly head out.
Yeah.
Because people are isolated and then by themselves. And the two things play off each other.
Yeah, they definitely do.
You actually just nailed it. That is, and you guys listening and watching, that's something to be super aware of. When you go back into the next lockdown or the next quarantine and you're by yourself most of the time, that is going to feed hashtag self-love and not the positive side of self-love, the demons of self-love, and getting into your shell and hiding behind and not keeping promises to yourself. And all of this shit that we're discussing in this episode feeds off the fact that you're actually being forced to be isolated.
Yeah, scary stuff. Yeah.
I never put that together. Thank you for articulating that, because now it actually makes perfect sense now that I put those two things together. So this is what I do, right? I mentioned briefly before that I go from, as soon as my inner dialogue goes from I deserve or I don't deserve, my way of flipping that is to change the word deserve to earn, right? And I'm going to return to my personal experiences, because every time in my life where I have adopted the mindset of earn everything, that we, you know, it's actually the hashtag for TMJ Apparel.
It is now, yeah.
Earn everything. Coincidental? I think not. Every time that I've adopted this earn everything mindset, only good things have happened for me. Only good things. So in my fitness, you know, to go back 2016, didn't get my pro card, to 2017 to coming back out, that humbled me so much that I was absolutely forced to flip from deserve to earn. And I adopted this earn everything mindset. And I just went fucking ham in 2017. Outside my comfort zone, confronting challenges, keeping promises I made to myself, calling myself out of my own bullshit, not slacking off in workouts, not missing cardio sessions, getting feedback regardless of how it made me feel, getting other people's opinions who I trust to provide that constructive criticism, to provide that positive feedback and putting it into practice. And I just went through 2017 and fucking crushed, like was completely undeniable, because I was able to flip that internal dialogue from, you know what, it's my time, I deserve it, to I don't deserve fucking shit. I got to earn everything. So I'm going to do whatever it takes to earn this. And the difference between 2016 and 2017 physically in the way that I looked was, it was a different person.
Yeah.
In the business side of things, flipping from, you know, I deserve retail stores to perform, I deserve this wholesale business, to I don't deserve anything, I have to earn it. So what else can I do for my retail customers to create an experience, something completely undeniable, something so irresistible that they can't stay away? What am I going to do for my retail partners on the wholesale side of the business to add so much value to them that they feel guilty not doing business? Earn everything. In my relationships, the flip side of that, I don't deserve to be treated like this. Objectively, you know, Sometimes people are shit. Absolutely. But you know what? I can do more. I can invest more in my life partner. I can invest more in my friendships. I can invest more in my staff and my employees. I got to earn not to be treated like that. It's not that I don't deserve it. I got to do more. I got to earn everything. And every single time I flip the inner dialogue from I deserve or I don't deserve to I've earned or I haven't earned, good things happen. Every single time. I actually could not think of a time in my life where I've adopted the earn everything mindset and shit hasn't worked out for me. I couldn't think of one.
There you go.
I think of many where I've fallen into the deserve mindset, the victim mindset, and shit's gone completely haywire.
I think we all can, yeah.
So that's my little trick.
I like it.
That's my inner thoughts about how I know personally when I'm in victim mindset and the inner dialogue that I use to get myself out of that victim mindset into a confident killer winner mindset. You got any tricks like that you use?
I just going back to what I was trying to articulate earlier about the way that we're talking to ourselves, our inner dialogue, and just trying to think of examples for you there. You know, I think it's okay to accept something for the way that it is, but the sort of trick that I have is not to end the sentence there in my head. Like, okay, yeah, look, I'm not happy with the way that, not happy with the way that my physique's looking right now. And that negative self-talk there. On the flip side, if you were to say, this is the way I look, and that's that. I just think that it's kind of got to be, look, I'm not happy with the way that I look right now. Yep. But I'm working towards improving that.
It's beautiful, man.
That's what I think.
Beautiful.
I think like this is such a delicate topic for me.
Yeah.
And for everyone, for me to talk about, I mean, because I just think it is just really fragile in the way that you can kind of go too far with it or not far enough. And you've kind of got to walk that really fine line between, self-love and self-care in the way that I think it's positive. And then the flip side of that is it going too far, which we've been talking about this whole pod.
Let me ask you two questions. On a percentage scale, what percentage of people do you find use it as a cop-out and an excuse compared to what percentage of people do you find go too far on the other side?
Oh, I want to say 50-50.
You reckon it's 50-50?
I want to, but it's probably more like 60-40.
Yeah.
It's like 40 in like probably the way that I'd be like, yeah, like self-love. Like I get that. You're doing good. Yeah. And then the 60% probably like I'm like, that is definitely not self-love. You are shitting yourself.
I reckon my ratio is probably more like 95-5.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That extreme.
I reckon it is.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I reckon it is.
Yeah.
And I think the reason why is it's probably got a little bit to do with my perspective of it as well, right? Is I think that when you get to the point where, okay, like you actually need to pump your brakes for your own mental health, right?
Yeah.
Is with the highest of high achievers, right? That's really the only time where I see it. And I can count on one hand the number of people who I know personally that I would be like, I've seen them go a little bit too far. And my advice to them has been just stop and smell the roses for a second because you're going to do some damage here. So it's probably even more than 95-5. It's probably like 99-1. Just thinking about that. So it does tend to go. But I'm really happy that you have brought that up because there is... No, I had two questions I was going to ask you.
Okay.
Hold on, I want to go down that path.
All
But
right.
I had two questions that I want to ask you. The other one I just remember the other one. So the first one was, what percentage do you think? The second part of that question, or the second question that relates to that, is what advice do you have to ensure that you're not falling into your 40% or my 1%?
Okay.
Where it's like, you know what? Okay, you know, the earn everything mindset, the confident winner killer mindset is definitely something that you want to adopt up to a certain point. But when it gets to this point, you need to just check yourself real quick, because you're going to start doing some damage to your mental health or your physical health or your relationships or, you know, whatever.
This is a tough one, and it's really like, I can't put a actual measure on it. But I think if something becomes almost like a habit for you, you know, I think letting something happen once and calling it self-love, or really feeling like you need that and that, and, you know, calling that self-love, like, you know, I just need this, you know, I just need this night off. But just not getting into the like habit of that, I think. Probably, but then what's a habit and for one person, what's not one for someone else? It's a tough one. I don't know.
It's something that I've really struggled with.
Yeah.
It's something that I'm getting much better at the more life experience I have. The older I get, the wiser I get, because I've definitely have started to understand and experience the benefits of real self-love. I have this concept that I call blissful pursuit. And it ties back into what you were saying. You gave the example of, you know what, I'm not in the body that I want to be in right now. I'm working towards it, but I'm happy with the progress that I'm making. So blissful pursuit for me is, you know, I'm an achiever, right? I have very big ambitions. I'm always trying to, you know, get notches in my belt. So I'm always going to be in pursuit of the next thing, right? That's the pursuit side of things. And I'm self-aware enough to know that of my core values, achievement is by far the biggest one. And I understand that that's just a part of my makeup. It's a part of who I am. On the other side, the blissful part is to consciously make sure that through the process of pursuit, through the process of trying to achieve, through the process of trying to reach my ambitions, reach my goals, that it's a blissful process, that I'm able to experience joy at different points, that I'm able to celebrate my wins along the way and not kind of go, yep, awesome, that was great, on to the next one immediately. It's just to have, you know, that period of time where I just sit with the positive emotion, right? We talk about not numbing negative emotions. I have a problem with numbing positive emotions as well, right? Because I get worried, right? I'm like, well, fuck, if I experience too much happiness and too much joy, that's going to affect my performance towards the next goal.
Oh my God, you'll get too comfortable.
I'll get, exactly.
Yeah.
No, it is exactly.
Oh.
I'll get complacent. I'll get comfortable. You know, I'm going to lose my mojo. You know, I'm not going to have the same drive. I'm not going to have the same killer instinct. So just be careful. Just pump the brakes on those positive emotions because, you know, it's going to jeopardize what you're trying to achieve at the next goal. It's going to jeopardize your pursuit. So for me, it's been, you know, definitely in the last couple of years, a very conscious effort to go, well, hold on, no. You actually, you know, it's great to pursue these goals and have big ambitions and want to achieve this shit. But at the same time, if you don't stop and smell the roses, if you don't stop and celebrate your wins, if you don't purposely have little pit stops and pace yourself along the way, you're going to run yourself into the fucking ground. And not only are you going to run yourself into the ground, but you're actually never going to be happy because you're always in pursuit. You're never going to achieve the final goal, at which point you're like, yes, I made it. Now I can experience the joy. Now I can experience the happiness and the elation and the bliss. It's never going to happen because you have to lean into those emotions along the way. And if you're not leaning into those emotions along the way, you're never going to have the capacity to fully experience them. So I call it blissful pursuit. And my little trigger for it is if I'm in a position where like something really good has happened, I've achieved a certain goal, I can tick something off, right? Or, you know, I've reached a particular milestone and my immediate thought process is on to the next one. That's where I check myself and I go, no, hold on a second. You've earned this, right? You've earned, it's not you deserve to celebrate and smell the roses. You've earned the right. So take some time, sit in joy, sit in bliss, and really make the most of this moment.
The most practical advice I can give for not letting this self-love, self-care thing spiral into something over the top, just thought of it while you were talking just before, is like anything you do in your week to week, schedule it in.
Yeah.
That way you're not just falling back on it. You're not just falling back on it in the moment. You know, schedule it in by all means. Schedule in a sleep in. Schedule in takeout one night. Like actually have it regimented in your schedule, and then that way you can kind of check whether it's just a fallback excuse for failing at something. That would be my practical advice. Actually schedule in your self-care and your self-love. You know, I'm going to dedicate this evening, I am going to order takeout and I'm going to run myself a bath and this is my hour or 2 hours or whatever you want to schedule in of self-love. In the exact same way you'd schedule in your training, you'd schedule in your prep, you'd schedule in your reading, you know, actually just schedule in. If you really want to get amongst this self-love, self-care movement, the healthiest way to do that is to actually and not get, and you don't want to fall into this trap of excusing shitty behavior as self-love, self-care. I think schedule it in.
I like that. I think that's really good. And I think once it's scheduled in and you know what's coming up, you actually, do all of the things that are real self-love to get there.
Yeah.
You know, you'll make sure you confront the difficult shit. You'll make sure that you keep the promises you make to yourself. You'll make sure that you're doing all of the stuff that's real self-love, because you know what? I got a pit stop coming up, right? So I can burn the fuel a little bit harder, right? And it's that mindset that I adopted to earn everything. For me, I would be like, all right, you know what? I know I've got this period coming up. I'm going to earn that shit, right? I'm going to go as hard as I can. I'm going to do all the uncomfortable shit, all the difficult shit, because I know when I get to that point, that's my little pit stop. And I want to make sure that I've earned that little pit stop.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's it.
I reckon that's a wrap.
That is a wrap.
Guys, you know what to do. If you've enjoyed listening to this episode, if you've taken anything of value, if you've enjoyed, if you've resonated with the examples that we've given, I'm sure everyone has resonated with your hit the snooze button in a cold winter morning.
We've all been there.
Or can't be bothered cooking dinner. Let me Uber Eats some shit.
We've also all been there.
The one thing we ask in return, guys, is that you share the show. One of the best ways you can do that, take a screenshot on whatever podcasting platform you are listening on right now, or if you're watching this on the YouTube channel, take a screenshot, post it in your Instagram story, tag Leah at Leah Mencel, tag myself at Joseph Mencel. We see those, we repost them, and it's the best way to spread the message, spread the love, spread the information, spread the knowledge, just spread the show.
Just don't spread COVID.
Just don't spread the vid. Leah, thank you. It's been a pleasure having you on the show. Guys, thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you guys. Until next time, we'll catch you on the flip side. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode of the Fitness Times Business Podcast. We hope you enjoyed listening. Be sure to subscribe on your favorite podcasting platform. And if you enjoyed this episode and took some value from it, make sure you share it with your friends, your family, and your followers. And if you haven't yet, be sure to leave us a 5-star rating.